think about insects, and they may use plants for shelter.
Some people will even keep sections of their lawn unmowed and treat it like a little pollinator stopping area.
So we do want a nice, healthy collection of bees and insects in the yard to make sure that our ecosystems in our yard are healthy.
Anybody can do something to help bees, to help biodiversity, to help our wildlife in our backyards.
Welcome to Ecosystems Live. In this set of 4 videos, you'll learn about how the environment and human actions impact animals, as well as how you can investigate what animals live near you. Today we have 4 experts here to help us discover nature that may be close to you. Aaron Grade with ICF, as well as Liz Burke, Tony Davis, and Susanna Lerman with the USDA Forest Service. We're so excited to share their expertise with you. And they're joined today with our host, also from the Forest Service, Farah Masumi.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. In our first video, we discovered how you can affect what mammals live near you. Today, we're going to talk about how you can affect what insects live near you. To be fair, insects sometimes aren't as cute as mammals, but the truth is we couldn't exist without them because they're such an important part of our ecosystem.
It's not so much also what we do with our ecosystems, but what those ecosystems do for us.
Insects play an important role in our ecosystems. For an example, ants and earthworms create underground tunnels that aerate our soil and help us grow better crops. Speaking of crops, ladybugs and wasps eat other insects that damage our plants, which reduces the need for insecticides. Spiders also eat bugs. Although they're not actually insects, they're arachnids, we're counting them anyway because of how helpful they are.
Things like spiders and other predators like praying mantises will eat the harmful insects,
which includes mosquitoes. So spiders help keep humans safe because mosquitoes spread harmful diseases. The list goes on and on. Insects do so much for us, and one of the most important is that some of them pollinate plants.
Bees and other types of species, they're going around and they're moving pollen around from plant to plant.
Many plants depend on these pollinators to reproduce, so without these insects, the plant species would probably die out. A lot of these plants produce many of the things we eat, such as vegetables, fruits, nuts, spices, chocolate, and coffee. Pollinators are an important part of the cycle that keeps these foods available to us.
So we can continue that cycle, the web of life, to be able to have the things that we need. We need our pollinators.
Yes, we need them to help us grow food. In fact, according to the United States Department of Agriculture, 1 out of every 3 bites of food you eat is because of pollinators. That's because they help produce about 35% of the world's crops. And here in the United States, they help produce about 75% of our veggies, fruits, and nuts. Still think insects aren't cute? Well, maybe you do, but you probably don't want them to go too far away, right? So we want there to be a high biodiversity of insects in our ecosystem. We talked a bit about the importance of biodiversity in episode 1 of our series, but essentially, it's the amount of different types of living things within an ecosystem. A high biodiversity of insects means that we have a lot of different types of insects. But can humans impact biodiversity? In 2010, Susanna Lerman had a similar question. She wondered, does lawn mowing frequency affect the amount of bees in a yard? She followed the scientific method to see if she could get an answer. We'll follow her research in this episode, but if you want more details about her process and discoveries, check out the Natural Inquirer publication, The Bee Frequency.
The hypothesis that I had was that if we mow our lawns less frequently, then you would have more lawn flowers. And if you have more lawn flowers, then you would have more bees.
She teamed up with fellow scientists Alexandra Contasta and Joan Millam and decided to experiment with lawn mowing in Springfield, Massachusetts from 2013 to 2014. She wanted to mow a variety of yards, some lawns once a week, some lawns once every 2 weeks, and some lawns once every 3 weeks to see how many bees were active in the yards.
One of the ways that I was able to recruit people was to offer them something in return. If they would be a part of the study, myself and my team would go in and mow their lawns for free over the course of 2 years.
2 years of free lawn mowing? Sign me up. But not all lawns were eligible because Susanna needed all of the yards to have a similar size and similar vegetation. That way she could make sure that only the lawn mowing impacted the bees and not some other factor.
So we worked at 16 different yards over the course of 2 years. And so that's a pretty decent sample size.
Once Susanna had her lawns, she just needed to count bees. To catch large bees, her team used hand nets. To catch small bees, they used pan traps, which are small, brightly colored plastic bowls filled with soapy water.
Pan traps, they're able to attract bees to them so that we can safely catch them. And so then once you have these bees, we then take them back to the lab and then we do a whole bunch of processing with them so that they can get to the point where we can put them under microscopes and then identify which species they are.
Clever. So after 2 years of collecting information, the experiment was over. But next, Susanna wanted to analyze her data.
We were able to identify 111 different species of bees that were in 16 yards. That represents about a quarter of all bees that have been recorded in the state of Massachusetts. This still astonishes me.
In total, Susanna's team collected 4,587 bees. But how did the mowing impact the insects?
What we found was that the yards that were mowed every 2 weeks had the most bees in them, but the yards that were mowed every week and every 3 weeks actually had the highest species richness, so the highest number of different types of bees within them. The yards that were mowed every 2 weeks with the biggest abundance, it was dominated by a handful of different species. It's most likely that these are the bees that are performing most of the pollination services.
So it seems not only were the amount of flowers impacting the amount of bees present, but also the bees were impacting one another.
One way that animals are affected by biotic factors are through competition for limited resources of water, food, and shelter.
Another biotic factor may have been the height of the grass. Lawns that were mowed every 3 weeks had grass that was so high, it actually prevented some bees from getting to the flowers.
Most of the bees that we were observing in these yards are about the size of a grain of rice. They're super small.
With this data analyzed, Susanna was left with drawing her conclusion. She found that humans have an impact on wildlife in their own backyards.
We were able to demonstrate that when you mow your lawn less, you have more lawn flowers. And when you have more lawn flowers, you have more bees. And what we found was that it was mowing every 2 weeks was kind of that sweet spot.
So it turns out humans are not only impacted by bees, but bees are also impacted by humans. We're all connected to our ecosystem, and sometimes the best way to make your ecosystem healthy is to just leave it alone.
Our study is really demonstrating that you don't have to do anything, that you can be this lazy lawnmower, and that in itself is doing something.
Of course, wildlife isn't just impacted by biotic factors. They're also affected by abiotic factors.
We have like our rocks and sun temperature. So changes in the abiotic factor can affect animals. So let's say if the weather gets too hot, that may cause a drought. That can affect the availability of water that some animals need to survive.
That's why it's so important to do our part to provide habitats for the partners in our ecosystem. We can even make decisions as communities for developing land that benefits both people and wildlife.
We all have a part to play, and stay curious out there and make those small little decisions that can have a big effect later on.
And if you're curious about more Ecosystems Live episodes, don't worry, we're only halfway done with our series.
In 1 week, we'll learn how you can investigate the animals that live near you. And in 2 weeks, join us for a live question and answer program where our experts will answer your questions live. Leave a question in the comments section of this video and we'll try to answer it during the stream. If you think of questions later, you can also write it down in the comments section of the stream while we're live. All of our videos and streams will be available on the Natural Inquirer YouTube channel. While you're waiting for next week's video, try out our Nature Nearby Challenge. This activity is brought to us from our friends at the Natural Inquirer to demonstrate how pollinators spread pollen. On a paper towel, draw a large flower with a marker. In a bowl, crush up some residue from a cheesy snack like puffs or doodles. Put some individually wrapped pieces of candy in the bowl and mix it up with the cheesy snack residue. Place the bowl on top of the paper towel flower. Now the fun part, eat some candy. Every time you grab a piece, wipe your hands on the paper towel. See how the cheesy snack residue spreads to other parts of the flower? Pollinators do the same thing when they spread pollen from one plant to another. How cool! Ecosystems Live, Nature Nearby is a part of the FSNatureLIVE series. Check out all of our programs on our website, We have programs on caves, freshwater, grasslands, pollinators, and much more. The FSNatureLIVE series is brought to you by a partnership with the USDA Forest Service and the Natural Inquirer. The Natural Inquirer is a program that takes scientific research papers and rewrites them in easy-to-understand language for students at many different grade levels. All of their materials are free to order or download on their website. That includes the publication we mentioned earlier called The Bee Frequency, which goes into more detail about Susanna's lawn mowing experiment, as well as this week's Nature Nearby Challenge. It also includes a lazy lawnmower sign, so you can let your neighbors know why you're giving your mower a break. And this is just one of their publications about discovering wildlife.
So after you finish this video, you might as well keep exploring these other amazing resources and then take some time to explore the nature nearby.